Tim, thanks for joining us at Kendal Mountain Festival. Question-wise, let's start off with something that you posted online a few weeks back, which was a picture of a mutual friend of ours, Big Tim Neal, on an icefall in North Wales. Now, you and I both went to Bangor University, albeit separated by a few years. Tell us a bit about those early days of anarchy.
And it's changed a lot. I just remember that every time I went ice climbing, I'd come back and my knuckles would be so bruised and I'd be raw.
Because you'd have been using, I'm guessing, straight shafted or maybe slight kink axe.
No, straight shafted.
Fully straight.
Yeah, there were no kinks in my axes.
Kinks were years away.
They were vertiges. I remember I bought a pair of Scarpa Vegas and these two vertiges and a pair of foot fangs for about 200 quid. And that was my,
How cool did you feel though when you got those?
Legend. Yeah, I mean, I knew that I could climb to 8,000 metres. But yeah, it was interesting because I lived in North Wales like you did. And the thing about North Wales is it's the first time that I'd ever been near mountains in the winter. And you can't really go climbing outside in the winter, can you?
Especially barely in Wales.
Yeah, exactly. And back in that day, I mean, I think the only climbing wall, well, you could go to Placid Brennan, or there was the Heights, and that was it. Like the Beacon.
Which, lest we forget, is in a pub.
It is, yeah.
It's a dangerous,
it's like
dangerous.
This room. So yeah, the thought of going climbing in the winter, it's like, well, you know, people go winter climbing. What's that all about? Should we go and find out? And I remember the first time I was about to go out into the mountains, and the weather had been terrible, and the news was just like, oh, these storms and all that sort of stuff. And I'd got up really early and it was dark, and I'd packed my rucksack with this stuff that I bought second hand. And I was in my first year at university, and I was in this house called Rekindled, which is like, I don't know, yeah, it looks more like a linear sign to be honest. But anyway, like I was walking down the corridors in the dark, and there was this Welsh cleaning lady who was like stooped over with her mop, and she was like, oh, you're not going out to those hills, are you? You'll catch your death, you know. And I just thought, I've got no idea what's going to happen, but it's going to be an adventure. Yeah.
And what ensued then from that point?
Well, we went, the next thing that happened really, we went and climbed up Idwell Stream, which is this like 2 or 3 or something, and kind of that was, it was quite good fun really. And then I was working outside at the time, at a climbing shop in Everest, and we had this video from Jeff Lowe that was all about ice climbing techniques. And I remember just watching it over and over and over again, learning about how you climb ice effectively, and that was incredible actually. It made a massive difference to my ice climbing. So yeah.
And
what about you, Rob? What was?
Bloody! I turned that. So mine was similar-ish to yours. I went out with a friend of mine, Danny, who I think have maybe done 1 or 2 ice climbs before, and we went up and did Left Hand Branch in Cogwyn.
Nice.
And so cool, really quite steep ice road. Well,
that's
I mean, so I thought now. But we went out, and I remember just my lasting memory of that is not only a lot of ice falling onto my head, because obviously you're just thwacking away because you've no idea about the subtleties of ice, and also Welsh ice is, let's face it, a pretty mixed medium at times. It's pretty far from like Euro ice. And I remember Danny getting midway through the crux and trying to place a hammering ice screw, which again is like, looking back on it, a relatively bad idea, and just almost the whole thing going from around him, but he just managed to scrabble to the top. And somehow we survived that anyway, and then lo and behold, the rest, years of ice climbing ensued, where I realised that first experience was probably the most dangerous, but probably also one of the most entertaining.
Totally. I mean, that's one of the things I love about climbing is you have all these different aspects of it, and if you're going to get into winter climbing, chances are you're just going to like go out there and see what happens.
Which, I guess you're saying there's so many different aspects of ice climbing, and to be fair, that with climbing in general, there's been so many aspects that you've also directly been involved with, and kind of to an extent, with things like the spray ice, developed and pioneered. I mean, you've been up there with the trad side of things, the sport climbing side of things, and like the winter side of things. All different food groups. And within this year alone, so we're going to talk a bit about Aerovea on the sports side, and then very differently talk about Everest. Do you want to tell us a bit about the journey to those 2 very different objectives?
Wow. I mean, for me, it really started when I lived in North Wales, and I was like just going climbing whenever I could, and it was if it was sunny and dry, you go rock climbing, and if it was cold and snowy, you'd go out with your ice axe and the crampons, and that was like the foundation for my climbing career, I guess. And then since then, I've just been on this mission to try and do things that I've never done before, and go to places I've never been to before, and just really explore the possibilities of all that. And then I was doing the Ice Climbing World Cup, and I met loads of people who were really good at it, and I learned so much from them. And also, like, they talked to me about places that you can go internationally, and then I met Will Gadd, and then Will and I ended up going to Helmcken Falls, which was just a total mind bender.
I mean, that, I think I'm right. How many years did you go back there for as well? Just
pretty much every year since we first went there in 2010. I'm probably going to go back again next year as well, because it's so cool. But for those of you that don't know about Helmcken Falls, it's this incredible, like, 500-foot cave. I mean, there's a river pouring over the top of it, and it's so steep. I did the first ascent of that in 2014. Where we climbed all the way to the top. And it's like 750 feet of like...
I remember seeing the first picture, because you think of ice, there's only so steep ice can get, or it's so the traditional school of thought went, because obviously you can get steeper and steeper, but up to a point, and then you can obviously get pillars.
Yeah.
But then that's kind of the limit until obviously the Helmcken Falls came into the mix, and you're like, I remember first seeing the picture of it, I was like, what even is that? How's that even, it's messed up.
Well, do you know, the interesting thing, like going right back to where we started this conversation, is back in the day when you had straight shafted axes and you had leashes which were fixed to the tools, right?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to shake out, you had to take your tool out, and then you could shake out like that a little bit, and then you had to put it back in again. And then you add to that, you had like really heavy boots, heavy crampons, but most importantly, and this is the real difference, was that you did not have ice screws that you could place with one hand. Now, if you think about a vertical piece of ice where you've got these straight shafted tools, how are you going to put the screws in?
Yeah.
So the only way you could do it was you put the leash up to your elbow, so you could hang off the leash like this, and then you could hold the screw with your one hand, and then you could tap it in with the other tool.
Yeah.
And it's like really precarious. And the thing is that in those days, ice climbing was hard.
Yeah.
Right? But since then, like if you fast forward 20 years, particularly through the Ice Climbing World Cup, because that's really where, that was like the catalyst for people to develop the technology of like double...
Everything changing, the fruit boots coming along as well.
Totally.
And
so now, if you've got, like a Quark, an Ergo, and you're hanging on a vertical bit of ice, it's like the finishing jug at a climbing wall.
Yeah.
And you can hang there all day. You can have like cups of tea, you can read a book, like.
But
whatever.
you must have to be fit, because I say this from the perspective of someone who's done a reasonable amount of dry tooling, and again, you may be on the biggest hold in the world, but you can get flipping pumped on that one jug.
Not on a vertical wall.
Okay,
you
yeah,
can't.
that's.
So this is the thing, you see. So on a vertical ice climbing is not that difficult anymore if you've got the modern equipment. But
add into the mix.
Like crank it over and you go to somewhere like Helmcken Falls. And one of the big differences with Helmcken Falls that maybe people don't realise is that you're climbing on ice. You're not climbing on rock. And when you go dry tooling, usually the placements that you have are so good that you can kind of get them from any angle.
Yeah.
And you can just like hang on off them. And as long as you've got the strength to hold onto your tool, which is, a level of fitness which you need to acquire from training and stuff. But as long as you can do, you're going to be okay. And the thing about Helmcken, which is really different, is that because you're climbing on ice, you can place your tool any way that you want to.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it effectively, you have to place it in the right direction so that you're ready for the next move. And that's quite complicated. And because of that, and you're also totally upside down, a lot of people have been to Helmcken Falls and they haven't really done much.
It takes, I guess, a while.
Angelica Rayner, for example, she's done D15 and she's the ice climbing world champion and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
She went to Helmcken Falls and she spent 2 days trying to get off the ground because the ice was a bit weird, and was going to go home and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, wait, come and do the route that Clem and I were putting up called Clash of the Titans. And so anyway, she jumped on that, and I think it took her like 3 days to do it. And we gave that like WI 10 plus or something. It was one of the easier routes in there. But it's you need to be a dry tooler that's strong, but you also need to be an ice climber.
You need to
as
think
well.
differently about the placements
way
and the
you move,
positioning.
Yeah, so.
So, moving on to do you think that fitness put you in good stead for something like climbing 9A, for instance, because it's a physical full body fitness? But yeah, I mean, like having climbed again in Margalef, sadly there aren't many bucket finishing holds in Margalef.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, like Margalef is very much like that, and I'm presuming Ereveya is much I wasn't good enough to climb those routes.
Yeah, do you know, it's really interesting. Climbing hard with ice axes is totally different skill and fitness and strength, to be honest, to climbing hard on small holes. Like, it's been a real journey actually, like trying to climb Ereveya over the last 2 years, because I've been there 4 times and I've trained loads and I've got super close, and it's been a real learning process to know what it is that you have to do to be able to get to the top or have a chance of getting to the top. And it's taken me to a new sort of level of training or awareness of training, which I've never really been to before. This year I'm hoping to use what I've learned for rock climbing, and I'm going to apply that to using axes, and going to see where
it's like how you'd be good at everything. It's difficult, isn't it? Different skill sets, like you say. Like, I mean, I'm assuming you spent a lot of time on, a fingerboard and doing circuits, endless circuits, probably.
Oh yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, the first time I went to Ereveya, well, I'm going to rewind a little bit actually, because unlike Dave McLeod, I have to be very specific about what I do.
Yeah.
Like, Dave's got this amazing ability to be able to climb really hard on rock and ice at the same time. And I think one of the reasons for that is because when he does his training sessions, he'll train for ice, and then when he's finished that, then he'll do a rock climbing training session, and he does like a double training session. Whereas for me, what I've always done in the past is I'll be like, right, I've got an objective, whether it's maybe Hampton Falls or 9A or something like that, and then I'll absolutely focus on that specific objective over a time frame.
You compartmentalize it almost.
Yeah, and then when I finish that, then I just like put that one to bed, and then I'll start a different training program, from Ereveya to Everest, for example. But yeah, the first time I went to try at Ereveya, I mean, it's 100 moves, and I thought, well, it's really steep, it's 100 moves, so I just got to be really fit.
Yeah.
So I trained fitness.
Yeah.
And I got there, and I couldn't do the crux, because I wasn't strong enough.
Which is devastating, because you're now based in Canada, so it's not an insubstantial. It's not like the equivalent of you just being able to drive, take the tunnel or the ferry, and then be there in a few hours. It's like
the other thing was, I was there with my wife and kid, and like Rocco was 3, and the thing with Ereveya, which I didn't realise because I'd never been there before, was it faces northeast, so that it doesn't get any sun at all. And we were there when everyone was saying like, oh yeah, you want to go there late because it's going to be too hot, and actually it's freezing because there's no sun, and you get the wind that fires down this valley. And I'd never forget, like, I was going for it, and I was about to set off to start doing the crux, and my wife was belaying me Kate, and Rocco was down the bottom, and they were really cold, wrapped up in blankets and stuff like this, and Rocco suddenly turns around and he's like, Dad, I really need to go for a poo. And I felt so bad because, I was subjecting them to living, hanging out in this really cold and sandy, dusty spot, and there I was trying to climb this route, and it was challenging actually. But yeah, I mean, going back to the story, so the first time I was focusing on endurance, and then the second time I realised I had to get stronger. So I focused on that a bit, and then I managed to get 2 moves higher, and then the next time, in a month, yes, come on! And then the next time I actually got past the crux, and then most people that get past the crux go to the top on their first go. And then I just kept falling off this up a bit, and then I'm like, shit, I've got to stay. Because I was supposed to be going home, and I was getting really close. I just thought if I could just get past this move, I'd get to the top. And then I got past that a bunch of times as well, and I got really high. And yeah, anyway, it's a work in progress.
So how the hell then do you go from basically being a 100 move pocket fiend to training for Everest? Well, is there any crossover in the things?
A tiny bit, but. Well, the thing is, I get on really well with the boss at Mountain Harbour, this guy called Joe Venaccio, and he was like, hey Tim, do you want to go on a climbing trip to the big mountains? And I thought, oh yeah, I can hang out with you. So So yeah, he's like, yo, let's see if we can climb Everest in the autumn. And I thought, oh, wow, that means there's not going to be anyone there, which is great. And you know, it hadn't been climbed since 2010 in the autumn because it's more challenging quite often to do that. And it just seemed like, oh, that sounds like a bit of an adventure.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds cool.
Let's give it a go.
And also, I knew that no one had climbed Everest in 9A in the same year. I mean, there's one guy that climbed the two of those, but Sam Elias, but no one had done it the same year. And I thought, well, that could be a good challenge.
Sounds nice.
Sounds good, yeah. But another reason why I was open to climbing Everest is because I'd started running.
Yeah.
And I'd started running to train for Ereveya.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, if you've got to be really fit, you want to have really good cardio.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine now who had just started climbing, who was like a professional runner basically, we'd sort of been helping each other out. I was introducing him to climbing, a guy called Mike Murphy, and then he was helping me out with my running training because I'd never really run for a long time because I shattered my kneecap when I was at university. So yeah, I've been running and I was quite enjoying getting around and covering a big ground and all that sort of thing. I thought, well, you know, Everest, it's all about your legs and being fit.
It's kind of like a big slow fell run, isn't it?
Yeah, you know. And I just thought it'd be quite cool. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, I wonder what it's really like. I mean, what's it gonna take to get to the top of this thing? Because so many people do it. You know, it's like a tourist attraction, you know.
But it sounded like it was awkward conditions when you were out there in terms of actually crossing, you know, the various ice fields and the such like. And you made the decision, I think, just in terms of the safety of the team, really, and you know, to abandon the ship after a while.
And well, exactly. You know, there were two things. One of them was that the snow line was above the icefall. So when the monsoon had come through in the summer, it had been raining on the icefall, so the icefall was like really skinny, and in the respect that there was like massive crevasses and it was incredibly complex. And there's the icefall doctors who were, I mean, they're the people that basically set the route through the icefall, and that's their job, and they've been doing it for the last 6 years. They couldn't get through, and they tried all these different ways, and usually it takes about a week, and they'd taken 3.5 weeks, and it was really interesting actually because there was a Polish team out there who were trying to climb Lhotse without oxygen, and we were all on standby because no one had been through the icefall. They couldn't kind of get started. And I remember having this like meeting with these Polish crew in the Rekindled Mountain satellite space station tent, and that finished with the icefall doctors saying, it's not possible, we can't get through. And that was it. We were all sitting there thinking, oh, is that it then? Like none of us are gonna get up to even get a start. So the next day I went up there with Garrett Madison and Dorji Sherpa.
And you guys forged.
Well, yeah, I mean it was an interesting one actually, because like, okay, so I'm a bit of a specialist ice climber, but the point is these guys, they know the icefall better than anyone, you know, that's their job. And there's like, the team of Sherpas that we had to go up to the summit had a total of 100 summits exactly between them all. Which
is a robust number of summits.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, these guys really know what they're doing. And then they were like, oh yeah, Mr. Tim, you can show us the way. And I'm just like, what? You're having a laugh, you know. But I was open to it. So anyway, we got up to just before their high point, and I looked at this aerial map that the Polish guys had got with a drone, and I'd sort of plotted this potential possible way that might work to get through these fierce crevasses. Anyway, and I got up to near the high point, and they're like, okay, Mr. Tim, now you show us the way. And I'm just like, I'll tell you what, you take me to the high point, and then I'll have a little look and see what it's like. So anyway, they laughed, you know, and I'm thinking, yeah, I bet you're laughing. And anyway, we kind of got up to the high point, and then Dorji held my rope, and I quested across this bit, which was pretty straightforward. And I'm thinking, why didn't they go there? And then there was this section where you had to get across this snow bridge, which was, I mean, what is a snow bridge? It's basically this zone, like say the length of a house, which you've got sort of an ice cliff on one side, one on the other, and then there's like a few bits and bobs in between, and you're wondering whether it's gonna collapse or not.
How structurally sound is the rickety-looking bridge with nothing below it other than the gaping abyss, isn't it?
Totally. And you've got like the biggest hole I've ever seen in life on one side, and then there's like this 50-foot gap on the other side with a big cliff that looked really good for climbing. But anyway, fortunately, we put in a snow stake, and Dorji belayed me going down onto the bridge, and because it was going down, I was like, at least if it collapses, you know, if I was going up onto a bridge and it collapses, then you're going to take a factor 2. But because I was going down on it and across it, and I was just like so basically lying down, sort of crawling across this thing with my legs out sideways, trying to spread my surface area as much as possible. And then got to this little cliff on the other side and tried to climb up that, and that was all like ball bearing weirdness that was just like, I don't know, it just wasn't intact at all. But I managed to make this sort of chimney, and then like chimneyed up this thing, and then got up the other side, and basically managed to fix a rope onto the other side, and then that meant that we were good to go, and the Sherpas could get across there with a line, which was great, because all of a sudden the morale at the base camp was just like, it's on, we can actually start this expedition. But what that led to was the next day when the weather got good, the Sherpas did their first stint, and they got up to Camp 1, and they could see that there was this giant serac that was way up on the top of the mountain, and it was leaning over the side, and it was probably about 200 feet high or something. And Dorji was just like, I don't know, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, how is that even there?
Yeah.
You know, because it looks like it's
gravitationally speaking, it shouldn't be, and it won't be for long.
Well, and just knowing that it was there and that it looked like it was going to break off, and the zone that we had to go across that was exposed to this takes like 4 or 5 hours to get across it every time you go. And then and like the other thing is like the Sherpas, they're just so humble.
Yeah.
They're so humble, and you just know that if you turn around to them and said, it's fine, let's do it, Camp 1 and 2, go for it, set it
blaze
up,
on.
they're going to do it.
But
you know, and I turned around to Joe and I said, Joe, I'm really concerned about that serac. I mean, what happens if we turn a blind eye to it and the Sherpa, someone gets killed?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's you, me, I mean,
it's not cool,
it's you,
is it? Yeah.
What am I going to say to your wife?
Yeah.
If it's the Sherpas, like, I mean, how am I going to feel? How are we going to feel about that, knowing that it was up there? And it was just, honestly, the next day we got the helicopter and flew home. Yeah. It was. There's just
abandon ship and just call it.
Way, you know?
Yeah. It's always there for another year, should you wish for it, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, maybe not.
It's there when I go back.
Maybe. Okay, Everest is still there. Hopefully the serac isn't.
Sure,
yeah. Well, that's a pretty diverse set of climbing styles that we've covered just there. And I guess how to finish it off, really. Did you expect to do any of this back when you started back at university?
No, not at all. I mean, I remember when I first started climbing when I was 15, there weren't any climbing walls apart from there were the brick edges on the side of the school, and then the Bristol climbing wall opened up. That was like 70 miles away. And the only chance, then like sport climbing didn't really exist. I remember going to Anstey's Cove, and I did my first VS, and I led that. It was called Tiny Tim outside. But as I was walking down to it, I saw this guy who was on the Empire wall, and it looked like he was I don't know, it just looked so steep, and it was Dave Thomas, and he was trying to do Empire of the Sun.
Legend.
I know, and which is E6, or it was like 7B or something. And I just distinctly remember looking at that, thinking, there's no way.
Yeah.
You know, that's just so far ahead, and then it's amazing how it's progressed over the years. Especially more recently, I mean, I never thought I'd climb 8C or 8C plus or anything. In 9A, you just like,
I mean, when I spoke to Emma Twyford earlier on, it struck me like, for her as well, the moment you first try a 9A is a really intimidating one, because you're almost like, there's an element in there, I'm not worthy for this. Like, 9A is a flipping big number. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember like looking at videos of Ethan Pringle and Sean and all these guys like doing RFA, and they just made it look so easy.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, why? I mean, it's desperate. I'm basically falling off every move, you know. But then by the end of it, I was kind of in their zone, which was...
2020, Tim.
I know.
Keep us posted.
2020 vision.
And thanks, and thanks for coming to speak to us. It's been great catching up.
Cheers, Rob. Nice one.
Cheers.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Brill.